The story dates back to 1860 when Solomon Dorney built a trout hatchery and a summer resort on his estate in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Due to the popularity, the decision was made to convert the estate into an attraction. Dorney added a bunch of games, playgrounds, refreshment stands, picnic groves, a hotel, and even a restaurant. The Allentown Kutztown Traction Company completed its trolley line in 1899, adding a stop at Dorney Park, and just 2 years later, the traction company purchased the park from Dorney. Over the years, Dorney Park continued to add new additions like the Great Scenic Railway, the park's first coaster that opened in 1905, and the roller coaster, now known as Thunderhawk, which opened in 1924. One strange story about the early years of the park was that the park owner at the time, Robert Plar, wanted to get a divorce from his estranged wife, Will Tracy, in the 1930s. To help push her over the edge, he built a house by the first drop of the roller coaster for her to live in. Robert passed away in 1966, but Will Tracy lived in that house until the late 80s, never giving Robert that divorce he wanted. In 1987, Dorney wanted to add a new significant attraction to the park. Little did the world know what they were planning.
This year, you can participate in a climb never before attempted by human beings as Dorney Park unveils Hercules, the newest and tallest wooden roller coaster in the world. Crafted by hand, inspired by nature, driven by legend. It will excite you like nothing else. Hercules, governed by one principle: what goes up must come down.
On July 15, 1988, Dorney Park announced that a new wooden roller coaster would be opening for the 1989 season. The amusement park was buzzing with excitement as Dorney Park embarked on a major project, a wooden coaster that would stand as one of the tallest and fastest of its kind. The park revealed its name, Hercules, set to open in March of 1989. The announcement specified that it would be located towards the back of the park near the lake. The construction of Hercules began in the spring of 1988. Built by the Din Corporation, the wooden coaster took a total of 18 months from conception to opening. Standing at a height of 95 feet, the coaster would feature a massive 151-foot drop, reach speeds of 65 miles per hour, and have a track length of 4,000 feet. The coaster was very impressive for its time. Hercules was built at the start of the Coaster Wars, where every park was trying to get the tallest, fastest, and best coaster in the world. Dorney Park would earn one of these records, as the 151-foot drop would earn the coaster the record of the tallest wooden coaster drop in the world. Testing turned out to be a little bit of a challenge for the park. The ride began to valley on the anti-rollbacks at the top of the triple up. On media day, members from Din were stationed at the top of the triple up for the first few runs of the day to make sure that the train cleared the top of the hill. After the first few weekends of operation, modifications were made to the top of the hill and it was lowered by 3 feet. Hercules also opened with a brand new train design from PTC. The ride received two 6-car trains that each seated 4 guests per car for a total of 24 riders per cycle. Each seat featured individual seatbelts and an individual lap bar. The new design feature had cars coupled together with a trailer hitch. One design flaw of the trains was that the hitch point was too far back from the rear axle of each car, which caused each car to shake side to side. This shaking later became known as the Din Shuffle. The ride experience went as follows. The coaster would dispatch out of an elevated station and go through a small pre-lift section with a few small hills before making its way to the 95-foot tall lift hill. Once at the top, you would make a left-hand turn and be faced with a 151-foot drop straight towards the lake. At the bottom of the first drop, the ride would make a drawn-out right-hand turn banked at 55 degrees where the ride would lead into the triple up, where guests would get a small amount of floater airtime. Once at the top, the train would dive under the station building, over a quick speed hill, and then a drawn-out right-hand turn. After another small drop, the coaster would make a slight left-hand turn before climbing up another small hill. After another small drop, the coaster would make a slight left-hand turn again before going down another small drop and making a long drawn-out right-hand turn. The slow-moving train would then climb up one last small hill before dropping and then climbing up into the final brakes. Overall, the ride experience lasted about a minute and a half. The ride had a very simple block setup. If you don't know what a block zone is, I highly recommend checking out my last video, or you can head over to El Toro Ryan's channel once you're done watching my other Why Is It Gone videos that are linked in the description. Hercules' 3 blocks went as follows. Block 1, the station. Block 2, the pre-lift to the top of the lift. Block 3 to the top of the lift through the final brakes. The ride had a few delays due to storms during the winter and missed its March opening date. At a cost of $6 million, Hercules opened on May 9, 1989. The initial reviews were overwhelmingly positive, with enthusiasts praising its speed and unique layout utilizing the terrain to its advantage. Dorney made it a point to want to keep the tallest drop on a wooden coaster for years to come, so they signed a contract with the Din Corporation stating that they were not able to build any larger coasters for the next 2 years. In 1990, the Din Corporation built the Texas Giant, which featured a 143-foot tall lift hill and a 137-foot drop. Six Flags Over Texas began claiming that they had the world's tallest wooden coaster. And to be fair, they did. Hercules was only 95 feet tall. Dorney ended up filing a federal lawsuit against Six Flags for $50,000 over which park had the right to claim the world's tallest coaster. Ultimately, both parties settled without a trial, and they came to the agreement that Six Flags would have the world's tallest wooden coaster structure, and Dorney would have the tallest wooden coaster drop. After a few seasons, Hercules started to become very rough. Due to the shaking, the turn at the bottom of the first drop's banking needed to be adjusted. That way the guide rails could be pressed against the outer rail and stop shuffling between the two different rails. After just a few seasons, the trailer trains would be replaced with articulating trains to help try to smooth the ride out. With the new trains also came the addition of headrests, and in 1993, trim brakes were added to the top of the first drop. On July 19, 1993, around 5 p.m., park staff decided to add a second train onto the ride due to long wait times. Maintenance performed their block check and turned the ride over to operations, where they began loading guests once again. At 5:07, the first train that was loaded with 15 guests was dispatched, but the second train was unable to advance into the station due to a sensor in the station malfunctioning, and the computer thinking that the train that was just dispatched onto the ride course was still in the station. Since the ride system didn't know there was a train in the lift block, the loaded train was able to clear the lift and go into the ride course. The two trains collided on the brakes, causing the 15 guests on board to be sent to the hospital. All were released without major injuries. The ride remained closed so an investigation could be completed. And just a few days later, on July 22nd, the ride was cleared to reopen by state inspectors, but with just one train. In 1994, modifications were made to the ride to help smooth it out even further and address the ride's valleying issues. The triple up was converted to a double up, and the hill was lowered even more so that way it had more speed going to the rest of the ride cycle. As the years went on, Hercules began seeing dwindling ridership due to its very rough ride experience. Park did everything they could to fix it, but it seemed like no matter what they did, the turn would always be rough. The ride's roughness gave it the nickname Hurt Your Knees, and was often ranked as one of the worst wooden coasters by coaster enthusiasts. In 1997, Steel Force, a 200-foot Morgan hypercoaster, was added to the park, pulling some ridership from Hercules. In 2001, Talon, a B&M inverted coaster standing at a height of 135 feet, was added to the park, pulling even more ridership away from the ride. Guests weren't really interested in riding the rough old Hercules anymore when you could ride taller, faster, smoother rides all around the park. At the end of summer in 2003, the park made an announcement that Hercules would be closing down permanently on September 1st to make room for future expansion. And on September 3rd, the park made an announcement that no one was expecting.
There's a legend, a tale of a wickedly twisted creature that lurks, just waiting to grab you and carry you away. The legend lives. Hydra the Revenge is here. It's a monster coaster, only at Dorney Park. You can't run, you can't hide. Hydra will grab you, flip you, hurl you through a breathtaking mix of twists and turns, spins and spirals. Hang on, you're at the mercy of the beast. Hydra the Revenge. It's a monster coaster. It's new, only at Dorney Park.
Dorney Park announced Hydra the Revenge, a B&M floorless coaster that would open for the 2005 season. Hydra is themed to a monster in Greek mythology that has come to take out its revenge on Hercules. Using some of the same plot of land used by Hercules and taking cues from the ride that came before it, Hydra would stand at a height of 95 feet and feature a smaller drop at 105 feet. Hydra would use the terrain to its advantage, allowing the ride to have much larger elements while not being too intimidating. While Hercules has been gone for 22 years now, there are still parts of the ride around the park that you'll be able to see today. All of the footers have been left in the lake that show a clear path of where the coaster would have thrilled its riders. You can also see them from neighboring rides like Steel Force. There are also a bunch more footers and other ride parts in the undeveloped woods left over from the ride. So why is it gone? To put it simply, the park couldn't keep up with the track work. The ride was constantly needing track replacements every off-season, and no matter what modifications they made to the attraction, they could never get it to be the smooth, high-speed, fun coaster that they wanted it to be. The park decided that instead of pouring money into the rough, unpopular coaster, why not go back to B&M, where we know that we can get a fun, quality coaster with very little downtime. While the ride did have its issues, Hercules wasn't just another coaster. It was a rite of passage for the many that grew up in the area. Whether it was the record-breaking first drop or how rough the coaster was, Hercules left a mark on its riders that they'll never forget. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Why It's Gone. If you want to see your favorite defunct ride on the series, make sure to leave it in the comments and I'll try my best to cover it in a future episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please make sure to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel out, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Bye.